Boom, Ever Onward Tribe. I was reminded of one of my favorite stories of a lesson I learned when I was in training, running training for the SEALs, that I shared in my first book. My first book, of all the chapters, there's a short story that kind of begins the chapter. It's not necessarily related to what's coming next. It was a way to sort of cheat, 10, 12 more stories into the book. And one of my favorites is a term I coined when I was running training. So I'm running one of our harshest block of training. First phase, when the bulk of the attrition takes place, Hell Week, all the roughest parts of training, where most of the young lions that show up are not going to see the program. They're going to make their way out and exit at that point. And I coined a phrase that it'll strike you at first, but then I'll explain as we go forward. And it's something that I called random acts of instructor violence. Random acts of instructor violence. People ask me all the time, what's the kind of secret of SEAL training? Usually the question is about what are the secrets to getting through, and we'll talk about that. There are none, but people ask that. Often they don't ask the maybe more interesting question, which is, why do we do what we do? Why are the evolutions built in such a way to elicit what from a candidate to see what will come out the other end? And random acts of instructor violence, in my mind, is really one of the true secret sauces of our program. What I mean by this is, if you were in charge of a SEAL training class, at the end of every day, you've just been crushed all day long with physical challenges, emotional, mental, had the pressure put on you. At the end of every day, you actually go into a meeting that will kind of describe, hey, what's going on with the day? This is what took place. If there's any, anything that needs to be done to actually clean up the day, somebody has a pay issue, something's going on in medical, they'll square that away. At the end of that meeting, the SEAL proctor, so the instructor that's kind of the mom of that class, so to speak, will give the direction to the class leader for what's going to happen the next day. So it would go something like, hey, tomorrow morning you're going to have the class on the pool deck, our combat diving tank. You're going to have the class on the pool deck at 6 a.m. No later, dead on 6 a.m. You better be there. Everybody's going to be standing in perfect ranks on the pool deck. You're going to have your sea bag behind you. You're going to have a pair of fins right in front of you, dive mask on top. Your dive knife better be sharp as a katana sword. Do you have any questions? No? Beat it. And you'd be on for the day. Now, as instructors, when we show up the next morning to that evolution, if the class is still kind of getting it together on the pool deck at 6:02 and is trying to square themselves away, you can imagine how that day of training is going to go. No need to get in the pool, pick up your buddy, let's start running the ocean. You're going to get beat for the next 6 hours straight because you failed to meet the standard of what we asked of you. So that makes sense. Every once in a while, though, as instructors, we would show up at like 5:52, right? 8-10 minutes early, and the class would already be there. Perfect ranks, everything like we described it. You could almost even see a little grin on their face, and they're like, yeah, we got here early. We knew you were going to be early. We beat you. And we'd smile right back, and then we'd beat them worse than if they showed up late. Now, here's the lesson, and it's one of my favorites. Of course, that sounds unfair, and almost inevitably, someone would quit, or multiple people would quit, on that very premise. They would say, we did it exactly right, we got beat, this is unfair, I'm out of here. And that is the entire point. On the battlefield, when I say random acts of violence, they're actual random acts of violence. And you need to be the type of person that can do everything right, have it go catastrophically wrong, and still pick yourself up and go do it again. That's where resilience is born. You got to be okay with being able to do it right and have it go wrong. Trust me, you're going to see this in life no matter what you do. Be willing to get back up and fight again. You'll win the day. Ever onward.